Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Thursday, March 20th. So, what are we going to talk about today? I thought we'd talk about, when is it the right time to throw in the towel and how do you come up with prices of what you think your stuff is worth? And how should the sale play out if you decide to do it? So, hang tight. Alrighty, welcome back. My name is Eric, if you didn't already know it. And yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Thursday, March 20th of 2025. So what are we talking about? I'm talking about when you get to that point of, do I continue on or do I sell? And when I say continue on or sell, I'm talking about having a business. It could be other things in life that you can kind of equate to what we're talking about. But today I'm kind of coming from the angle of a business owner and has done it for a long time. And with our shop, now we've had in the past few weeks a couple different people show interest in buying the property and or business. And at first it was like, all right, maybe I should sell. Maybe this is a sign. Especially after having the heart attack or the triple bypass, quadruple bypass. And maybe it's time to go in a different direction. Maybe it's time just to get some night crawlers, hop in a boat, and just spend the rest of my time fishing. Maybe look at property, real estate, on the river, or on the water somewhere. But I know that I wouldn't be content. And that's a hard word for most people to find, is being content. We're always thinking we gotta have something else. We're missing out on certain things in life. I don't know if it's my age. I don't know if it's the experiences that I've gone through. But what I can say is that I'm content. I'm content where I don't need other material things to make me feel fulfilled. I don't. I have a great family. I have great friends. I mean, would I like certain things to be better? Like during this past winter, would I would have liked it better if we had more customers? Yeah. And so I wasn't really content in that area. But coming out of the hospital and coming back to the shop, I became content because I was still sitting there. I still had the ability, as weak as I was, to do videos with you and also have customers coming in just to check on me to see how I was doing. That they didn't need any repairs or anything, but they heard that I was back in the shop. But when is the right time for you as a business owner to decide it's time for something new? How do you know? And then if you feel that it's the right time, what's the best way to sell it? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Only because I have to deal with it. So I can go one of three ways, all right? I can sell just the property without the contents. It would be strip clean. That's the first way. Second way would be to sell the business with inventory as a turnkey business. There'll be more than three, I think. Three, sell the building, move up above, build the new building, and bring all the inventory with me. And four would be to sell the building and then have an auction prior to transferring it over to the highest bidder. Which one would work out the best? I know for me, the one person that's interested, they were interested in the turnkey. They wanted everything. And the more I thought about it, because they're young, was I don't feel comfortable with turning over my customers' information, my business name, my contacts. Because if you're gonna, I'll tell you, there's a lot of headache in transferring a business to somebody else. Amos, you could probably fill us in and fill me in, on what is involved in it. But I just didn't feel comfortable with giving out my customers' information to someone that I hardly knew. Because I treat that like sacrilege, like the HIPAA compliance in the medical field is I don't talk about my customers' information, whether it's their credit card, whether it's their address, what have you. That's between me and them. And in the shop, if a customer calls with a credit card number over the phone, I write it down, but then we shred it and burn it. I don't want it laying around. I don't want somebody else's credit information available to anybody. So I come back at the one couple that wanted to buy a turnkey, and I said, look, you're looking at getting into four-wheelers, side-by-sides, skidoos, bikes, everything else. We don't lean that way too much. We're warranty, still classified as a warranty shop for Massimo and Coleman. But if it's anything other than a service, we've kind of steered away from it because it's so cheaply made. And the biggest issue they seem to be having is with their fuel injectors. The nozzles, the ends of them. They get plugged up easy. But I told them, I said, for the most part, we don't deal with that. And you're young, in your 20s. The people that you're going to attract are people that are young and are making decent money like you are working out. Because the guy makes over $100,000 a year at his job right now as a service manager and is looking at gradually transferring over to his own business. I got news for you. It's going to take a lot of business to get $25,000 or $100,000 in pay plus benefits. I can tell you that much right now. That's going to add up to a lot of moolah. But they wanted something that he and their kids could grow into. So I said, really, the customers that I have, you're not going to be interested in probably because they're older, retired, or mid to low income. They don't have the big bucks to go out and buy toys. They're not out running sleds every weekend or out bike riding every weekend. Even though I am old and I do have my own bike that I do ride in the summer. But I told him, I said, you're looking at a different group of people that you're going to attract, that you should attract. you should be well versed on social media and how to get to people your own age that are spending money on those toys that you want to fix. So I said, really, I don't even know why you want the inventory. And he said, well, I still would like to work on, the lawnmowers and that stuff. So we had to come up with a price, I had to, of the building was already set in cement. And I gave them some extras to go along with the building price when we were talking contents. And I didn't go through the contents and say, okay, what did I pay for it? What's it worth at a wholesale cost of what we dealers would pay for it? I didn't even do that. I thought, if I had an auction today, what would I realize out of the stuff that's here? And that's how I based what I had for inventory instead of what it was actually worth if I had to replace it. And I took into consideration that there was a lot of stuff there that had been there for quite some time that we hadn't sold or used, that had become new old stock. And he was also interested in the pull draws. I said, absolutely, but it's going to cost you some more money. And then he was interested in the wire shelving that we have. I said that there's roughly 14 in this building. I want to keep 9 and I'll sell you 5. And he's like, well, why would you keep 9 of them? I said, because if I build another shop up above, I'm going to need shelving to put stuff on. See, that's the thing, is even with his shop, with him taking over the actual building, if my customers knew I moved up the road and was still doing it with Claude, we would get them. And why is that? Because one, we're still going to be the cheapest in town, because the young lad there, I call him young lad, was saying that the person that he worked for, it was $105 an hour. So he thought he could charge around $85. We charge $55. So, there was a lot of thought process that had to go in. If I sold just the building, then I would get a hold of a auction house and have them come in and sell the contents if I was getting out. If I wasn't getting out, I would sell the building, box up all the inventory, shelving and all that, put it into storage while the new building was being built. Or I would sell the building and contents to the next owner. Right now, the person that wants to buy the building and contents is going to get back to me. We've had 2 sit-downs so far. Will it materialize? I don't know. And honestly, if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't need to sell. Business has started to pick up. I've got all my bays full, and I got to go pick up another one this morning, another tractor. And I've got 5 more that'll be coming in shortly. So we've gradually, for some reason, gone more with the tractors. The older tractors is where the money is for us than anything. So even if we drop the lawn and garden out, we do pretty well. But like Claude said, if you put up another building, Eric, you need to put it up with the idea that you can do what you want with it. So have it where you can store equipment, or have a barn off the back of it for your cows. Something that's versatile, so when you decide to get out, at least you have use of the building. Because where I want to put the building is directly across the road from the house. Heck, I could walk to work. The drawback is people know where you live and will show up at your house. That happened early on to us when a lot of our customers realized that we live just a mile and a half up the road from the shop, and Claude lives next door to me. So they would show up at 5, 6 o'clock at night in Claude's driveway, wanting him to fix something for them. And Claude was always, if you want me to take it and I'll take it to the shop in the morning, that's fine. Or you want to drop it off tomorrow, but it's got to go through the shop. But if I were to get out of it today, it's like Claude says, don't have me in the equation. Because I can make what I make with you for the week, I could get for driving tractor trailer for 2 days. And sometimes one day, depending upon who you're driving for. Because he has his Class A. I mean, he can drive anything, right down to his wrecker endorsement, rollback endorsement. He's got it all. So I've taken him out of the equation of what should I or shouldn't I do. I'm just waiting to see what materializes. But for you, if you're deciding that maybe this is the year to get out, how do you go about it? See, the thing I like about an auction is there's never anything left. Somebody will take every bit of junk you got. Whether it's scrappers to other shops. Even customers that are looking to build up their inventories in their own shops. But you need to price things so that, I know it's hard to price things sometimes because when you sit back and you figure out how much money you got invested in what inventory you have left, it's hard to sell it for that. Hardly anybody will give you what you have into it when you're in business. You have to make it reasonable enough that they want to take the inventory. And a lot of times when you buy something turnkey, you buy it with its debts too, which I have done. But if you're in business and you do have debts and somebody wants to buy you out, lock, stock, and barrel is the old saying, then they're accepting your debts as well. Your debts become their debts when it comes to the business. And you need to get your name off the debts and their name on it when you're signing everything over. And Amos, please step in at any point because I've never sold a business before. And I bought and sold a lot of land. But I've always had the attorneys do all the work. All I had to do was either agree on a price, whether I was a buyer or a seller. Where is that magic number that you and I both need to be at to make it reasonable? In the end, you have to make that call of when is the right time. The question you have to pose to yourself is, now what? What is going to be your next adventure? Will it have anything to do with small engine or will you go a different direction? Both Claude and my son say, sell it, and go out and buy a nice boat and spend most of your time in the summertime fishing. It sounds great. It really does. But that is fun only just for so long. For me, anyways. I've got a nephew that he grinds all the time. He's out catching perch to either sell in fillets or he sells them by the pound in ice coolers. And he's good at what he does. But that's all he does. And he works hard for what he's got. So, in the comments, put your thoughts. When do you think is the right time to sell? What has to transpire to make it a reasonable sale? Am I being reasonable by saying that you should sell your inventory to a prospective buyer for what you would get at auction or just slightly above? I'm curious to know the answer. Because I know what I paid for a lot of the inventory. And I know that if you're dealing with the aftermarket companies and the OEM companies, you're going to pay more than what I paid to have that inventory. Because I bought it at warehouse level, a lot of it. Not dealer price, warehouse price. But the other thing that you have to take into consideration is that individual that may be looking at buying your business also has seen what the Chinese are selling their stuff for on eBay and Amazon. So that person may be looking that route of just buying as they need, which is fine for a lot of shops. That way you don't carry a lot of overhead, a lot of inventory, a lot of debt. Buy what you need as you go. If you find you use a lot of a certain thing, like a fuel filter, air filter, oil filter, spark plugs, stock them. But not going into debt stocking them. We buy all the oil filters by the case. And for most of them, I think there's 24 per case. That's how we buy them. But we'll go through 3 or 4 cases a summer. So on that note, I'm going to start wrapping it up. I appreciate any comments and any feedback, but when is the right time for you? What is going to trigger you to say, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger and do it? What is going to lull you out of your business? Because a lot of times your business is the baby, right? But you got to treat it as a business too. You guys have a great Thursday, and we'll catch you here bright and early tomorrow morning. Again, thanks so much for watching.